Hello and welcome to this special interview on The Wire with Sitaram Yechury, General Secretary of the Communist Party of India, Marxist. Sita, it's a great pleasure to have you in our office. You have visited before, but this is the first time we're going to be recording a proper interview.
Good.
And what we hope to do in the next half an hour or so is to really cover the full range of current politics and your perspective and your party's perspective on this. But I wanted to start with this incident which happened a couple of days ago, where your press conference was disrupted. Your press conference after the party Politburo meeting in the party's headquarters was disrupted by two people, apparently Hindutva activists of some kind. What exactly happened, and what do you think this kind of disruption of this kind of event signifies?
Well, first of all, they didn't manage to disrupt the press conference. But what happened was two people masquerading as journalists. They entered the office, and as I was entering the hall, they started shouting slogans, anti-CPM slogans. So before we could have realized what was happening, we had some of our CPM comrades there, who intervened, and then they hauled them up. And then we kept them till the police came and picked them up. But then they were handed over to the police. But the basic point appeared to be that of creating a mayhem there, knowing that the media would be there, and to end up trying to either physically assault, which is what it appeared that they had come to do, and disrupt the press conference. But in the event, once they were rounded up, press conference went on schedule, everything went okay. But they have now claimed to be part of some Hindu Sanatan Sanstha, something of that nature. One of these RSS network organizations. And it's very clear, this is their brand of politics. Browbeat the opposition, intimidate them.
But in a deniable kind of way, because the RSS has issued a statement.
Well, RSS statements of this nature are routine, in the sense that is their habit. Right. Whether you look at it from the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi, how they immediately said that Nathuram Godse had nothing to do with the RSS, when he was actually one of their pracharaks and one of the higher level pracharaks, which Nathuram's brother had publicly stated it in an interview some years ago. And he said how Golwalkar had come into their family. All four brothers were RSS pracharaks. How Golwalkar came to their family and told them that you have to say this, otherwise we'll get into trouble. So that is the old story of the RSS. But or look at the later the person who attacked Prashant Bhushan. Same thing, RSS said, he has nothing to do with us.
This is Tejinder Bagga.
And he joined the BJP.
He is the BJP spokesman. I think such assaults are also used by them to test people whom they can promote. This is, I suppose, a qualification.
Do you see anything about the timing of the action by these characters?
Well, you see, they have been targeting the Kerala Chief Minister and our party in Kerala. The part of their overall All India plan is to target the left, which they feel is the most consistent political opponent of the Hindutva and their fascistic agenda of the RSS. And that is that is why Golwalkar, if you remember, had way back in his bunch of thoughts, the three internal enemies to the establishment of the Hindu Rashtra are the Muslims, the Christians and the communists. So this identify, a political opponent are us. Hindus and Muslims are communities, minorities. So we are the political opponents. That is one thing. So they are seeking to destabilize the LDF government in Kerala, enter into a competitive communalism playing in tandem with the Trinamool in Bengal. So that this communal polarization, one Muslim fundamentalism, the other Hindu communalism, this will marginalize the left. And targeting now, specifically, after their victory in Assam, moving to Tripura, because elections are due early next year, to say that they would want to defeat the CPIM in Tripura. Tripura is important for them because that's the only place where they directly confront the CPIM. In Kerala, it is the LDF UDF. In Bengal, it's Trinamool CPM.
Right. So but Tripura is interesting because Mamata Banerjee has also made it a priority, or she had. The Trinamool was looking to dislodge you there, take the fight that she's waging in Bengal to Tripura. And now, of course, the BJP has entered in a major way. We saw defections from the Congress to the BJP. Do you think, who do you regard as your primary opponent then?
You see, right now what is happening is, you're right, Trinamool Congress targeted Tripura. They in fact swallowed up 2/3 of the Congress MLAs. Yeah. And they formed their party. But now, not only the Congress shifting to the BJP, but bulk of this Trinamool is also moving to BJP. So with the Trinamool also dissolving.
Moving to BJP in what sense?
I mean, they're joining.
Defecting.
I mean, they're
Defecting.
Defecting. The MLAs also are defecting. No, in that situation, the BJP becomes, I mean, it's trying to become the fulcrum of all anti-left forces. They are at one level, I mean, talking to, negotiating with the two extremist outfits there in Tripura, seeking, because they cannot, their standard, what you call recipe of communal tension is not possible in a state like Tripura, because there is no sizable Muslim population for them to, I mean, sizable. They require a size of the Muslim population.
You're saying that at the national level, they've been cannibalizing Congress. They're now cannibalizing regional parties also, trying to.
Their slogan of Congress Mukt Bharat is precisely a slogan of opposition Mukt Bharat. I mean, in fact,
Amit Shah, I think in Orissa, said how he's looking forward to a situation where every state, the BJP is in power in every state in India, which in a way is what opposition Mukt Bharat would look like.
Opposition Mukt Bharat is. And that's why they've started that operation in Orissa very clearly. You've seen what happened in the local body elections. In Tripura, they are now trying to, very dangerous, they're trying to create strife between different tribes, different ethnic groups that are there. I mean, the peace which has been maintained. That is, in Bengal again, I mean, I'm really apprehensive, because remember, when India became independent, Mahatma Gandhi was not at the Red Fort. He was on a hunger strike in Calcutta against the Naukali riots. Yeah. Bengal has got a bloody history of communal tension. Now, we somehow managed to contain it in the 4 decades because of the left. Now, if that is going to resurface in this park play between the Trinamool.
Do you think it will? Because some BJP intellectuals are already talking about some latent nationalism, Bengal nationalism, which could resurface in the context of majoritarian politics.
It is. I mean, it's a very, very strong possibility, and I'm really apprehensive that is exactly what they're working at. Towards. They're working to achieve that. Remember, from the Swadeshi movement of 1905. That communal tension is latent there. Only a secular left progressive polity had actually contained that. Now, if you let that loose now, that'll have tremendous repercussions. And also, you see, I mean, neighborhood Bangladesh, the rise of the fundamentalism there and the dangers that's posing, that will overflow.
See, in this context, one read reports that CPM, in fact, some members of the Central Committee, as reported, had suggested that maybe we should develop an understanding with TMC and other regional parties could at some level develop an understanding only to keep these forces that you're just describing at bay. So is that a possibility?
Unlikely. I mean, it won't happen for one simple reason, that the TMC is also playing, the BJP is playing a carrot and stick policy with the TMC. Okay. You have all these cases of Narada, Sharada and all these, and the CBI is, blow hot, blow cold. Whenever the BJP feels that the Trinamool is not following the line, you arrest some of their people. When you bring them back into following the line, so the TMC is not a consistent anti-BJP.
No, but yet, Sitaram, if you look within Bengal and also at the national level, Mamata Banerjee has been one of the most vocal, strident critics of many government policies, right?
Yeah. In fact, demonetization, she was one of the most vocal.
She was the most vocal, and in the recent discussion of having a common presidential candidate and so on and so forth, she seems to be very much part of this evolving opposition unity or whatever. So to what extent is your assessment, I mean, while it's true that probably the BJP, like any ruling party, would use all the instrumentalities of investigating agencies to put pressure on opposition parties, but do you think she is vulnerable to that extent, and do you think that politically she's weak enough to succumb to that pressure?
Yeah, I mean, in the sense, I wouldn't say weak enough to succumb, but I think the pressure is very strong. You see, I mean, we've seen this for instance, in the Parliament. On the floor of the House, there's a floor coordination. Where we are there, TMC is also there. But when the crucial issue comes of voting, either you'll find the TMC walking out on some pretext so that they don't participate in the voting. So I mean, these sort of things are also there to be seen. So therefore, I mean,
so there is pressure because of these tactics. But here I want to ask you this. It is so clear to everybody, clear as daylight, that investigation agencies are being used as political tools. All kinds of regional leaders, all kinds of cases have been are being pursued by CBI, ED, Benami, the use of Benami Act, it's very clear. But the opposition doesn't seem to be sort of coming together to then talk about why cases against BJP government leaders are not being taken forward. There are cases like in Madhya Pradesh, the Vyapam scam. There are BJP governments are also replete with scams.
Absolutely.
So opposition doesn't seem to be cogently talking about it.
No. You see, there are two aspects to this, Venu. One is the opposition, let's say, in Madhya Pradesh is very, very active and very what you call vocal about it. But unfortunately today, I mean, I'm sorry, I mean, I don't mean to bring the wire into the picture, but unfortunately today media is such that nothing of this comes into public discourse. Increasingly, what is happening now is that the opposition space which is reported is only what happens on the floor of the Parliament. Beyond that, I mean, unfortunately, and I think this is not good for our democracy. I mean, what is happening? I mean, look at the manner in which that Asimanand and that Pragya, etc., on cases that the NIA, I mean, National Investigation Agency, has confirmed on these Ajmer blasts and Malegaon and Hyderabad Mecca Masjid blasts, how they are being let off. I mean, these are blatant cases of how the law is being used to favor the BJP and the ruling establishment and to harass the opposition.
But Sitaram, if the media is focusing on opposition as it is in Parliament, right, as you said, isn't it also a fact that the opposition itself is confining its attempts to build unity also largely to that parliamentary sphere? The recent example being, finding a candidate for the presidential election. If you look at demonetization, maybe the last time that there was some kind of coordinated opposition noise and activity was over the land reform, the land acquisition bill in the early months of the Modi government. But after that, on demonetization, there was virtually no coordination between opposition parties.
No, you see, demonetization, unfortunately, that broke because of, again, the tactics of the ruling party dividing the opposition unity in the Parliament. Because if you remember, the 17 parties that came together, you had this unprecedented human chain in Parliament. I mean, at least I've never seen that sort of thing happen. And then we gave a call for 28th of that particular month for something like a nationwide hartal. Because Bandh is something that the courts are, are very sensitive about. But for that, there the coordination was broken.
And I think the Congress kept off that. Right? Yeah, so
you see, the Congress, in the sense, the Prime Minister called a Congress delegation to meet. And the fact that 17 parties were together opposing the Modi government, you had the Congress going and meeting Modi. That created a sense of thing. But I think now we are overcoming that. But you will soon find, I mean, it is not going to, now, like the present agitations now going on. Yesterday, what happened in Mansoor in Madhya Pradesh, now we are just discussing for all the like-minded opposition parties to actually launch a nationwide people's movement on these two issues. Farmers and unemployment. Unemployment, I mean, this is a gross betrayal of the youth that is happening. Modi came, assumed as a PM, promising 2 crore additional jobs every year. Yeah. You have the lowest job.
And for the farmers, 50% profit over their costs. Yeah. Which now every farmer organization is openly talking about.
Exactly. I said, you promised 150% of your input costs. And the question came of who will estimate the input costs? This is the Committee of Agricultural Prices and Costs. Official, government company, they have estimated the cost. Your minimum support price is actually below the cost that has been estimated. And that is your promise. You have not neither fulfilled that for the farmers nor this for the youth.
It's very clear, Sita, that on the economic front, there is a decline. Their own now numbers show that there is a steady decline, whether in employment, industrial growth, bank credit is at 60-year low. The government is trying to divert attention to other issues such as nationalism, other emotional identity issues. So one also gets the feeling that we've spoken to other opposition leaders. They think that Modi has maintained his personal popularity with this nationalism and those kind of emotive issues. So the opposition needs to probably focus on other areas of failures to counter that. Do you also feel that attacking Modi is not helping, and you need to sort of create movements around other issues?
You see, we've always maintained that an alternative political narrative has to be built. I mean, that alternative political narrative can come only through people's struggles on the hardships they're facing, and these hardships are mounting. And now, you believe you me, in another 2-3 months, you'll find the actual, the impact of the demonetization that is going to hit the industry. It's already hitting, but it will hit them very, very badly in the next quarter. Because the spillover effect, and there are just no orders to many of your MSMEs. I mean, these small enterprises are just virtually wiped out, and they are your biggest employment provider. And they do more than 2/3 of your GDP comes from there. Now, if that is destroyed, then it's going to be him, and that is why more that happens, more will be the jingoism that will be, whipped up.
But I find it interesting, Sita, in this context, I find that some of the RSS affiliated organizations like Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh, it's also coming out and criticizing the government. Bharatiya Mazdoor Sangh is on record that some 2.5 lakh units have shut down, and some 20-30 lakh, 3 million employment has been lost. Even in Madhya Pradesh, if you just study, it's a big fight between two factions of Bharatiya Kisan Sangh. One leader just left the Bharatiya Kisan Sangh. He was the head of Madhya Pradesh unit, which is also an RSS unit, and he started his own movement because he says Modi hasn't met any of the promises made to the farmers. So why isn't the opposition exploiting this division within the
They are. You see, BMS, for instance, you have this nationwide industrial strike that was called by all the trade unions. BMS was initially part of that. Then they backed out under pressure from the government. Now, increasingly, the workers are also deserting the BMS.
Is that happening?
That's happening. That's happening at the lower level, and you'll soon find that the pressure on the BMS leadership will be more intense. It's already, the pressure is on, like you said, but it will be much more intense. And in the next 6 months or so, I can foresee there will be a big upsurge of various sections of the people's movements. And that they are building up. Now, the farmers' issue, independent of what was happening in Madhya Pradesh, was that farmers' strike in Maharashtra.
In fact, the second phase is happening.
Unique thing. Next week it will happen. Yeah. Now, this started when? 15 months ago, when the farmers, our Kisan Sabha and all were there. I was there personally. There was a siege of Nasik town. In the night at 3 o'clock, the Chief Minister calls for a delegation to come to Bombay. There he assures them, within 6 months, I'll meet your demand. 15 months have gone by. The strike is the result of that. And you heard of worker strikes. Farmer strike is something that is, caught Maharashtra totally by surprise.
But does it worry you that you, as head of CPM and working together with other opposition parties, may not be able to weave out of these different struggles and different protests something that is coherent at the national political level? Because I have in mind the perception which not everybody may share, but increasingly it appears to be the case in UP, for example, the elections, the way it was fought, that the personality of Mr. Modi and the projection of this personality becomes a key element in the election.
So it kind of overshadows the issues.
So despite demonetization, despite the lack of jobs, the BJP, and of course the BJP also communalized the campaign. But at the end of the day, it was the personality of Mr. Modi that was being pushed. Does this worry you? Do you think that this is an enduring trend in India, a new trend in Indian politics that you don't have an answer to, or is it a passing phenomenon?
No, this is the projection that is happening. You know, if you look at even the personality aspect, I mean, the BJP polled 3% vote less than these assembly elections than in 2014, when Modi's persona, so to speak, was the main, I mean, he was the mascot. In Uttarakhand, they polled 10% less. In Goa, they lose a sitting government. They form a government, that's a different matter. So, I mean, earlier...
In Punjab, they lost.
In Punjab, they lost. Earlier in Delhi and Bihar, they lost. So, public perception and media projection, I mean, these, I think, the distance between the two is now growing immensely. I mean, there's a disjoint, which is there in actual people present. Why they won UP was because of a very, very sinister communal campaign. What is the underlying message that Modi and the BJP and the RSS are trying to convey? We taught Muslims a lesson in Gujarat, therefore the Gujarat model. I have a single party majority after 20 years in parliament without a single Muslim MP. I win UP without fielding a single Muslim candidate.
And then you have Adityanath.
Adityanath as the chief minister. So what is the message you are giving? I mean, what more? I mean, there need not be any other slogans that are in say. I mean, Kabristan, Shamshan Ghat, all
majoritarianism is getting institutionalized.
Absolutely. And that is the basis on which the sinister campaign ki Muslimanon ko Raj nahi hona. And unfortunately, which I think the BSP leader has later realized, the more she went on projecting, saying, I've given 100 Muslims as candidates, well, actually worked in BJP's favor.
So the polarization that she was attempting to take advantage of actually backfired on her and helped the BJP.
And that whole projection of saying Kasab, I mean, all these three, Congress, SP and BSP, these are all pro-Pakistani.
Right. So, Siddharth, in a way what you're saying is, I mean, again, paraphrasing what Siddharth just asked you, social and economic discontent, widespread as it is, it's getting radicalized towards the right. So, isn't that a threat? I mean, doesn't the opposition then have to do something to bring the whole discourse, back to the center?
Yeah, it's happening. You see, your Madhya Pradesh now.
Do you admit that? I mean, is that something which is happening?
Discourse shifted to the right, and indeed, I mean, after 2014 and the build-up to 2014. I mean, that's when it all began. I mean, that did happen. But now you see the shifting. The shift has already begun, and it will intensify very soon. I mean, you see the spillover of what's happening in Madhya Pradesh and Mandsaur. Now it's reached UP. The UP farmers are naturally saying, and they have been betrayed much more because sugarcane. What they were promised was that some thousands of crores of rupees are due to the farmers that the mills are not paying.
And even the loan waiver that Adityanath announced hasn't been translated into action on the ground.
Very, very marginal. I mean, it only affects a very small section of the peasantry. And Maharashtra, UP, Madhya Pradesh, and now you'll see the thing also moving down in Andhra. That's also connected with the land acquisition that is happening for the capital there. And the huge, thing that is coming up. But you're right. I mean, all this has to be crystallized into some sort of a unified opposition.
And one more thing, Siddha, it's very interesting that all the emotive identity related issues and this majoritarian politics around the cow, beef, cattle laws, it seems to be more focused on the cow belt, as it were. I'm using the word cow, but in Hindi. But there is resistance to this coming from Kerala, from Northeast. Even BJP's own, Siddharth, BJP's own, party people are saying that this will not work. And I remember Arun Jaitley, some 8 months ago, Arun Jaitley had articulated this problem, and he had said that we'll use issues like beef, cow slaughter in areas where there's a ground for it, where people culturally feel about it. Because he was specifically asked how will BJP manage this in Goa or Northeast or Kerala. So he actually said in those states maybe it will not be taken up the way it is taken up. But that doesn't seem to be happening now. They brought a national law banning cattle trade, which is really hitting one whole industry, $10 billion leather, beef exports, employment.
But see, what's clever about it is that this is perhaps the most serious attack on the federal structure of the Indian polity and Indian constitution since Mr. Modi came to power. And remember, this is a prime minister.
Even the cattle law.
And this is the prime minister who celebrated the fact that he was going to redefine and give power to the states and so on. So you have this attack, but he's chosen a topic that is emotive, so that the Congress party will find it very difficult.
And a strong signal to majoritarian impulses.
So you see in Gujarat, for example, the Youth Congress saying that cow should be made the national animal, endorsing the demand of that judge in Rajasthan. Whereas in Kerala, of course, the Congress reacting in a very foolish, absurd, manner. But this is something which, even when a decision is taken which seemingly, appears to be very outrageous legally, constitutionally, the opposition is kind of caught flat-footed, not sure how to respond.
Hasn't Kerala,
Hasn't
Kerala sort of trying to repeal it or something?
Kerala had a special session yesterday.
Yesterday, right? Yeah.
And they have repealed it. And the fact is that Kerala CM has taken the initiative and is written to all the non-BJP chief ministers. And soon I think that this will crystallize into some sort of an opposition chief ministers coming together.
Okay.
And there, the Congress vacillation. You see, the Congress always had this, right from the days we were independent struggle, the Hindu Mahasabha and the Congress. You had always this element of vacillation on such issues. But that will have to be now overcome. Either they overcome it, otherwise, people are going to go beyond that.
In his interview to the Hindu, Rajnath Singh, Home Minister, said BJP is not against beef consumption. Is this basically trying to ensure that in some states where this is backfiring?
Yeah.
This is purely a tactical statement?
Absolutely an opportunistic statement, purely and completely. And it's in order to safeguard whatever gains they made in the northeastern states like Goa, etc. And they are, in a big flak in Kerala, the BJP unit in Kerala. It doesn't know now how to respond to all that is happening. And the BJP units in Northeast and Goa and all these places, you'll soon find either they have to backtrack on this or give some sort of an assurance. And the Home Minister's reaction today is a sort of an appeasement.
Right.
But given that Kerala is, as you said, a kind of priority for the BJP, they see themselves, and I may be completely wrong here, but it appears to me too that this is quite likely, that they will perhaps replace the Congress as the primary, or the UDF as the primary opponent of the left. And we've had violence in Kannur, other parts between RSS and the CPM going back many decades, but it's sharpened in the last couple of years. And then they go and take this kind of measure, which in a way, cannot find support in Kerala. So how would you assess the political strategy of the BJP in Kerala?
I think the Kerala strategy is different from the All India strategy. Okay. I think that's why. And you see, they are mastering out these tactics of dealing with different regions in a different way. But like when you said, their basic idea is now to consolidate in what is called the cow belt. And that is where they think that this will have a very deep resonance.
But in Kerala,
240 seats from cow.
To paraphrase Arun Shoury's comment that Modi government is Manmohan plus cow, is the Kerala strategy of the BJP communalism minus cow? Is that what they would like to, because cow is going to backfire on them over there?
But do things work in this kind of mathematical kind of calibrated fashion?
They shouldn't work. But whether they they can work if the opposition is not active. No, that is where. And in Kerala, they met the opposition.
We come back to the same question: is the opposition active, according to you? Active enough?
I think it needs to be more.
Will the presidential election show some sort of opposition unity?
I think it will. That is the effort that is on.
But BJP is not revealing his hand so far, right?
Yes, it won't. It's a game of attrition. Yeah. And I think that they are waiting for us to...
So what's the opposition strategy? Without asking you to reveal any secrets, but what's the broad...
You see, strategy, at the moment, they have 54% of the electoral college.
That you're including Jagan and others who have declared their support.
Declared their support, and the 2 AIDMKs and all that. Now, if the strategy would be to try and see if that unity can be broken, a candidate who can do that, otherwise to put up a straightforward political fight, which is what we would want.
See, in this context, there are two names which have been speculated upon. One is Sushma Swaraj, and one is Draupadi Murmu. who was part of Naveen Patnaik's cabinet and now a part of BJP, governor. So, I read a report which said that if they put up Draupadi Murmu, hypothetically, then Naveen Patnaik will have no option but to support. If they put Sushma Swaraj, old socialist, people like JDU and RJD will have no, even Sharad Pawar would end up kind of supporting. So, how will it play out? I mean, do you think that they would have the courage to put up an RSS candidate for president? That's the only circumstance in which the opposition could probably come together.
You see, all these discussions and speculation we know, I mean, it's of interesting. You know, we can talk about it. But remember, Adityanath, how he came up. So you cannot really predict what they're going to be up to. And I think the RSS is also, I think, the first time in history that they've come close to occupying the.
So they would be tempted.
The post of the president, naturally.
But they occupy the post of Prime Minister anyway. So what is the President compared to the Prime Minister in that way?
No, it's a constitutional head, no?
Both. It's a symbol, symbol of Indian nation.
Quite right.
They would want to have their own man as the chief of the armed forces.
But you know, sticking to the realm of high politics, you know, so the President, we'll get one taste of what the opposition might be able to do in the presidential election. But as you say, the cards are stacked against you, quite frankly. They have the numbers and they have investigating agencies to ensure that those numbers get augmented. So let's set that aside. I think, and it's never happened before that a ruling party has not been able to choose its own president. By and large, this is always, you know, they managed to get through. But as we move towards 2019, this is not just in our conversations with you, but we've spoken to other opposition leaders. We get the feeling that there is growing appetite for some kind of, you know, concerted, unified front against the BJP. I see two problems with the strategy. The first is a practical one, that you know, you can't have arguably the left and Trinamool as part of the same combine. The Congress is at its historically weakest position today, and all previous arrangements of this kind have required the Congress to be of a certain strength. The left is at its historically weakest, and all of those previous combines have required the left to provide, if not political heft, but certainly ideological direction. In the past, you had leaders like Harkishan Surjit who really, you know, were unifying players who could pull everybody together. These are all structural issues. And then there is an idiopolitical issue as well, which is that, and I've heard Yogendra Yadav argue this, that nothing might suit the BJP better than for 2019 to be replay of the 1970 election.
Ganging up against one person.
When Indira Gandhi said कि ये लोग कह रहे हैं इंदिरा हटाओ, मैं कहती हूँ गरीबी हटाओ. So were Modi to come up with that kind of a slogan, what could be, I can't think of anything more disastrous for a combined opposition than if you combine and you still fall. So how would you, do you recognize these as problems or dangers?
Yeah, I mean, there's many elements of what you've said are, you know, problems that need to be overcome. But remember, before Indira Hatao, Main Kehti Hoon Garibi Hatao, was in 77, where Mrs. Gandhi lost her own seat.
Right.
I mean, Congress lost. So that analogy is not correct. I mean, 77, the same unity, you know, gave that. So that disunity among the Janata Party is what allowed 1980 to happen. So you see, in this sort of a situation, various permutation combinations can be possible. But in all that you have narrated, one thing you missed out was 1989, VP Singh time. Congress was not the main mover. And there, what was the arrangement? Again, Surjit, you pointed out, was what we call the National Front, Left Front. It was not an all-in unity.
But with a peculiar role being played by the BJP though at that time, right? Which you wouldn't want to repeat now.
Yeah, but National Front BJP was part of it. So we said we are the Left Front separately. So something will work out. I'm confident about that.
But let me see that again. It's interesting, just from what Siddharth just said. And do you think anti-Congressism over the years has helped BJP really sort of expand its space in Indian politics? When I say anti-Congressism from 1977 onwards, do you think they got legitimized? Even in VP Singh experiment, in some ways BJP and left were supporting the government together. So Nitish Kumar, for instance, told some of us when during Bihar election that he was trying to reinterpret Lohia. He was saying that the anti-Congressism that Lohia had proposed then in the 60s is now anti-BJPism. If Lohia were alive today, he would have
said anti-BJP.
Yeah, he would have flipped the argument.
Well, I mean,
since Congress is reduced to such a small party now.
See, anti-Congressism of the past definitely helped the BJP and the right-wing forces, and that is what they were wedging towards. No? I mean, whether it's the JP movement, the eagerness with which they were wanting to participate, or even now, even for Manmohan Singh, what was the thing? We require another JP.
Yeah.
And they found Anna Hazare to some extent, which helped them do it. So they are constantly in search of something or the other which is not themselves, because they know in the final analysis, the RSS itself, as in the leadership of that, will not work. I mean, that will only help, like you said, I mean, bringing all the anti-BJP together. So, I mean, they've constantly been in that sort of a search that is there. But now, after this presidential election, how this will crystallize, that is the important phase.
Can the opposition get its own JP today?
Yes, I think. I mean, JP was also a product of the times, no?
We're kind of almost out of time, but it seems to me that the success of your project is linked not only to what happens in the realm of high politics, but also what we were talking of earlier, right? Yes. What's the grassroots, the people's movements, the farmers' movements, we haven't discussed yet, but what is equally and very vibrant in different parts of the country, the new Dalit movements that have come up in Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat, elsewhere. The success in perhaps marrying the struggles of these new movements and farmers and workers' movements with coalitions and arrangements at the level of high politics is perhaps what will hold the key to
and that's what we are working at. In fact, in the last party congress of our party, when we talked in terms of saying that the class struggle in India stands on 2 feet, social oppression and economic exploitation. Unless these two move together, you can't really advance. And now, I mean, you just see the synergy of the left and the Dalit movements in various parts of the country. Can you imagine? I mean, I was invited by the Nagpur University to deliver a lecture on Ambedkar thing, and the RSS got it cancelled. So the Ambedkar College at the Diksha Bhumi, which Ambedkar himself set up, their principal said, no, you come and deliver the lecture here. And I go there and what do you find? You said, Jai Bhim, Lal Salam. The slogans being shouted. At the Diksha Bhumi, they said, I mean, nobody shouts slogans.
So there's a broad alliance.
The blue flag and the red flag. I mean, people holding one in one hand, the other in the other. Now this is growing. I tell you, this will be the new dynamic, a socio-political dynamic that is emerging.
So shouldn't this translate into, Siddharth, you having some understanding with Mayawati and parties, Dalit leaders?
Yeah, there are rival. I mean, Prakash Ambedkar, for instance, is part of the larger coalition that we have formed, including, then we said people's movements, Paul Divakar. You have your Bezwada Wilson. You have your Jignesh from Gujarat.
And of course, many of the new Dalit leaders have their own misgivings about Mayawati's politics, so it's complex.
And she also has. Right. I mean, it's time that these are overcome. That's what we are telling you. I mean, it's time that these are overcome. And I think these movements by themselves will create the situation where they should be overcome.
Okay. On that note, Sitaram, completely out of time, but thank you so much for joining us in this interview, this conversation.
Wonderful. It's always a pleasure.
Conversation later.
Yes, always a pleasure to be here with the Wire.
Well, that wraps this interview up. Do join us again for another guest at another time.